how many copies of Venom number 3 is too many copies? The answer is you can never have too many copies. Run the intro. In this video, we're going to talk about a brand new collection that I just picked up, and then some general musings and ideas that buying these two most recent collections have sparked within me. This modern collection I just picked up that we'll go over today with multiples and speculation, and the Wilbur collection with, a completionist run of all the vintage Marvel stuff. Some really interesting points of view and topics, that things to think about. But first, we're going to take a look at the collection, and then I want to go over also the book that I decided to keep from the Wilbur collection. At least this book. I might keep some other stuff as well, but I want to share with you this, and it ties into, interesting concepts about collecting comics. But before we hop into it, I want to remind you that this Friday, we have our San Diego Comic-Con from Home Whatnot show. It's going to be a massive show. There's a link down in the description for $15 toward your first purchase. You can stop by and pick up a free book. We're going to have tons of vintage Marvel $1 starts on slabs. Just absolutely epic show, tons of giveaways, chance at $1,000, and we hope to see you there. Also, we have the 20,000 subscriber giveaway, which we're running to the end of July, so you still have a chance to get in on winning those 6 CGC 9.8 slabs. Thank you so much to everyone for the support. I can't believe we made it to 20,000 subscribers, and then don't forget to head over to brycecomics.com, where you'll find all the books that were shown in this video listed for sale. Use code COLLECT10 for 10% off. I always have new inventory coming through, and if you sign up for that newsletter while you're there, that's where you get first access to new collections, and you get entered to win a free slab as well. So let's take a look at this new collection. So I want to go over the collection here that just came in. We're not going to go over every single book because we have a lot of work to do, but I do want to get this video up because it is the cornerstone of my business. At least I view it that way. Always get a YouTube video up every Monday and Thursday. We've done it religiously for going on 4 years. I just checked my phone, and August 7th, 2020 was when we started YouTube. So on August 7th, it'll be 4 years on YouTube, 2 videos a week. And so let's just go through this here and just show some of what's in it. Okay, so there's a lot of TMNT stuff in here, specifically around Jennika. Here's the retailer incentive for the first appearance of Jennika as a Ninja Turtle, signed and sketched by Kevin Eastman. That's awesome to see. Some TMNT 101. We got some Avengers Immortal Hulk keys. First appearance of the Immortal Hulk. A bunch of Star Wars High Republic, including issue number 1, the 1 in 25 Swabby variant. It's interesting. I don't know that I've ever seen this come through my shop. The 1 in 25 for Star Wars High Republic number 1. So we got some Silver Surfer Black, the 1 in 100 Bradshaw Virgin. So you'll start to see the types of books. And then one of my favorite Del Autos, the 800. This is the 1 in 200 incentive variant, which coincidentally was previously used on a Panini trading card before that cover. Found that out after the fact. Ultimate Fallout 4 first print 9.6, 2 copies of that for the first appearance of Miles Morales. Some other Immortal Hulk Clayton Crane cover for Immortal Hulk number 1. Noctera variant 8. This is probably one of the high ratio incentives. Jorge Jimenez cover, absolutely awesome. A bunch of copies of Something is Killing the Children number 1, the Unlocked Retailer. I remember, I'm gonna have to go back and check my Instagram reel and see if I can see me unboxing this book, but it was the foil version. So Sanctum Sanctorum Comics did a foil version of this, and I remember saying I would buy this 100 times again. I was so thrilled with it. I was so absolutely thrilled with this book. One of my favorite Jenny Friesen covers, one of my favorite series. Absolutely love that. A bunch of those. And then a whole bunch of Venom number 3s, the first appearance of Null. And we will talk a little bit more about different ways to collect, different types of collecting, modern collecting, speculation, and things like that. We'll talk about that here in just a second. First full Dylan Brock, double signed, custom sketch. So a bunch of those early Venom keys. Here's the 3rd printing custom label for the first cover appearance of Null on Venom 3. And then we even have the 1 in 25 for the first appearance of Null. A bunch of signature series versions, double signed, double sketch, 9/8 custom label. Doesn't get much better than that. The convention edition. So a whole bunch of Venom. Then we have the Venom First Host number 3 custom label. Awesome cover on that one. And then like some non-modern, well, I guess this is modern depending on whose definition of modern, but 1990, Uncanny X-Men, first Gambit 94 newsstand, first Apocalypse, Miles Morales Spider-Man #1, Clayton Crane cover. Always love this Daredevil cover. First Carnage 96 newsstand, and even a Spawn #1. And then we brought some of these to the Whatnot show that we just had. So when you're watching this, we had just done this Whatnot show, and most of these will have been sold. And I put some from that collection in here as well. Wolverine Limited Series, New Mutants 98, first Deadpool, and Secret Wars #8. So a really awesome collection. This is a really fun time here at the shop because we have such variety of books. We have the Wilbur collection, which is every Marvel variant from 1964 to 1980. We just got this massive modern collection in. I have another collection coming in. It's another single owner collection that should be here in about a week from the time you're watching this. It's nothing like on the scale of the Wilbur collection, but it's a single owner collection, 400 slabs, $65,000 I'm paying. And I've got some DC Golden Age books that are supposed to come. I haven't heard back from the guy. I think he's having a hard time packaging them, but if those come in, this Golden Age DC, and I already have some DC on the website, and then every Marvel vintage comic, and then every modern comic, it's just like, I'm gonna look back on this time and think of this as like, man, that was a time when we had a lot of inventory, which we will get through it. We will move all of this. We will get through all of this. We don't hold on to stuff for very long. Do you remember, young Marcus, like not too long ago at Pearson Road, our shop in Paradise, where we had 4 boxes? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember all the time just selling through everything.
Yeah, yeah, so we sell through everything. It's like, it's not uncommon, even in recent times, for us to just have 3 or 4 boxes on the website, and that's it. So like, we get stuff, we move through it, and you know, there's times like this where a lot comes in at once, you know, so it's just exciting times. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy having a great selection, so make sure you check out brycecomics.com, use code COLLECT10 for 10% off. While you're there, sign up for the newsletter, and you're entered to win a free slab each and every month, and you get first access to new stuff when it comes through, always priced at a very fair price, and that code COLLECT10 is always active. All right, so now that we looked at that, I want to talk about the book that I decided to keep from the Wilbur collection. This one was like it was meant to be. We were in Florida, and I remember young Marcus was getting on my case because I was looking at all the slabs, and I opened a box, and he's like, we don't have time for that. We need to start packing books. And this was one of the books that I pulled out. I just wanted to like stop and admire some of the books that I just bought for $215,000. And this was one of the books, and it's Chili #25, and it says, notice how he's staring at me. If you think you can compete with Little Chili, you're all wet. And I'm like, what? What does you're all wet mean? I'm aging myself. I mean, somebody in the comments, please put like, was this a term that was used back in, you know, the early 70s? Like, you're all wet. Like, what does that mean? You're all wet. Like, you're crazy? Or, and then her friend there responds and says, not as wet as you're gonna be. I love it. I love these little innuendo covers, and it's going to go perfectly next to my Betty and Me 16, which I will also put up on the screen that says, Archie, did you have any trouble rescuing me? And he says, I sure did, Betty. I had to beat off 3 other guys. 2 5.0s, and this brings up a concept that I want to talk about, which is, why did I decide to keep this book? A 5.0, it's not worth, I mean, it's probably $30 or $40, probably not worth getting graded in a 5.0, but it just so perfectly happens to line up with this 5.0, the fact that this was the book that I pulled out, and it really is like one of the few that just really made me laugh of the whole collection, or just brought joy to me, and that's what collecting is all about. You know, it's not all about, you know, what's the most expensive book. You know, of course, that doesn't hurt. You know, if I could find the single highest graded copy of this, that might be kind of cool. But now this copy has a special significance to me. So there's lots of different ways to collect. So one of the things that I like to do for my personal collection is have them be conversation pieces, or things that have, you know, sentimental value to me. And so it's just one aspect of my collection. So this represents that. And then when you have collections like the Wilbur collection, you know, his angle was primarily being a completionist. A completionist is when you have to get, every single issue in the run. And in this case, completing an idea. And his idea was to get every book that came out from the month he was born until he was 16 years old. And he completed that. And there's lots of different things. And as collectors, we decide what we want to pursue. And it's just always interesting to see the different ways to collect. And I always like to present it to the community to just be mindful of it. There is no correct way to collect, but I think it is good to be intentional, like Mr. Wilbur, having that intention to collect that. And then this collection that just came in with the modern stuff with a bunch of multiples, that is another collecting style that I see a lot of people do. Is they find a book that they love and they just go ham for it, and they just buy every copy every time they see it come up, and they like having multiple copies of it. I would just caution that if that is your collecting style, to put some thought into it. Be intentional. Think about, what are you going to do when it comes time to move them all? If it is like a speculation play, play the tape through. Or another way to put it is there's the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the 7 habits of highly effective people is to begin with the end in mind. So if you're going to start collecting Venom number 3, have the end in mind. It's like, okay, when am I going to sell these? What event is going to trigger me selling them? And how am I going to sell them? Because you want to begin with that in mind so that when it does come time to do that, you're not taking a loss. You can actually, turn a profit. And that would likely mean with speculation and stuff that you set up all the sales channels. Get yourself an eBay store, get yourself an Instagram page. I have lots of videos on this channel, and there's lots of information out there on YouTube about how to successfully sell comic books. So just be intentional. Begin with the end in mind, and recognize, that there are a lot of different ways to collect. There's the vintage stuff, there's the new stuff, there's speculation, and speculation has a place in my heart because it's how I started my business. I started buying books on eBay and selling them when the spec paid off, or flipping them, just buying them full retail at the price at the time, or, speculating on certain characters or events or whatever it is, and selling them when that time played off. Obviously, speculation has taken a big turn and has changed a lot since I started my YouTube channel 4 years ago in 2020. But there still is opportunity out there for speculation. Obviously, it's different. You're not going to have the same kind of success as you could have had back in 2020. But there is opportunity. And one of the ways that there's opportunity that hasn't really changed since 2020 is buying books raw and getting them graded yourself. The profit margins are less now than they were then. I mean, back then you can buy, I remember it was just this huge disparity. You could buy a book raw and get like 10x for it graded. And part of the reason for that back then was that there was a long delay in getting your books back from CGC. I remember at one point it was like 6 to 8 months before you even got the books back. So it was a supply and demand thing. That, there wasn't as many graded copies available as there was demand for it, and that equaled out to a 10x increase in price. And that was a huge opportunity back then. Now it is still a way to make money in this hobby, to buy books raw and get them graded yourself. But because the turnaround time for CGC is so fast, they're just pumping them out, that demand gap is closed, that the supply actually does meet the demand and the price has plummeted. It kind of went hand in hand with the market correction. So there's a lot of moving parts with this, but there is still opportunity out there. Now with the buying stuff raw, getting it graded yourself, you really have to master the art of grading. Otherwise, you can take some big losses because you could lose money on grading if you don't know what a 9.8 is. I have a bunch of videos on this channel that dive deeper into how to pick a 9.8 and things along those lines. And so for supply and demand, I wanted to touch on supply and demand because of the thumbnail for this video, which whenever I see a thumbnail like the one that I put for this video, I might tend to think like, well, that just devalued the book. You just showed a video or a picture of yourself with 10, 15 copies of this thing. Surely that is going to affect the value of the book, right? For something like this, for supply and demand, for Venom number 3, the first appearance of Null, I mean, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of graded copies of this, and it's enough to meet the demand to where the price today for that book is about $190. So me posting a picture like that, it's going to have absolutely no impact on the value of Venom number 3. If I were to send them all to eBay no reserve auction all at the same time, then that absolutely would have an impact on the value of the book, which is interesting because if I sent 16 copies of Venom #3 to eBay auction, you know, the price would come down. I would expect it probably some of them would sell around like 150, 125. Maybe some of them ended at a weird time and went for less than that. And then you would see that is the price that people see when they look at pricing tools. So it's really interesting because even though 16 is a tiny fraction of the total number of graded copies, the fact that the numbers for those sales is what everyone sees, that becomes the new price. So you have to be really cognizant of, you know, where you sell them and how you sell your books, because you want to protect the value of these things. And none of my copies will have recorded sales because they're all going to be on my website, which doesn't record to any of the reporting sites, or Whatnot, which also doesn't report. So even if I did bring them all to Whatnot $1 start, it wouldn't affect the value of the book because none of them would be recorded. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get full value for them because they're a highly desirable book and I have no need to dump them. You know, I just have them at a fair price and they'll eventually all sell at that price. So some really interesting things with supply and demand, some really interesting things with how to collect comic books. I hope that this video was thought provocative for you and that it enhances your hobby, because that's what we're here to do on this YouTube channel, is enhance the hobby by making you a better investor, speculator, and collector, and providing fair prices for awesome keys. Thank you as always for sticking with me to the end of the video. Time to get back to work. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.